Welcome back to Upside Down Data. Let's talk about Kaspa and where it might be heading next. So Kaspa is a very impressive asset in its price action so far. If we just look from the lows back in the summer of 22 up to where it is today, we're talking about over a 60,000% move to the upside. Absolutely phenomenal returns. But of course, that's what's happened in the past. We want to talk about what's going to happen in the future. So if you're not familiar, Kaspa is a layer 1 proof of work blockchain, and that distinguishes it from a lot of other chains that are out there that are proof of stake. And it is very fast, it's very scalable. And some people really prefer proof of work as a consensus mechanism over proof of stake. They think it's more secure and also allows for better decentralization. So those are a few things that make Kaspa a little bit unique in terms of its value proposition. But what I want to talk about is, what do some of our models see with Kaspa's price action, the price action of KAS, the token, and where might we be heading next? So to start off, I want to talk about one of our risk models. This is our short-term upside downside potential indicator, or UDPI. So this model is really useful for telling us how risky is Kaspa in the shorter term. So this model cares about moves that play out over days to weeks. And you can see that in these periods, it will track when it's relatively low risk, and then as it starts to grow up, the risk will increase. And as we got up here right around the local top so far, we got up to our highest level on the short-term UDPI so far. We got up to about 4.65. The max on the scale is 5, so quite high. And then again, with this rally here, we ended up getting up to 3.2, so quite high there again, suggesting that the upside potential in the short term was getting tapped out or getting exhausted, or there was quite limited short-term upside potential at those points. The downside potential is quite larger. And so then this time, just like we did this time, we've gone and we started to realize some of that downside potential. But the good news is that as risk cools off further and further and further, it sets the stage for it to be able to have that next leg up. The more that you realize that downside potential, you now suddenly have a lot more upside potential that's plausible than downside. So at some point before too long, it would not be surprising for KS to find a local bottom and then be able to reverse back to the upside. Now, it's probably going to depend on broader market forces. When does Bitcoin stop correcting? When does the broader crypto market stop correcting? That's going to matter. But then that very well might coincide with some of these lower levels that we're seeing here on the short-term UDPI, and then we might be setting up for that next leg up. Now, another model we can look at to give us a better sense of the timing of that, of when that move is actually maybe going to materialize, is our trend confidence indicator, or TCI. So as the name implies, the TCI cares about the trend of an asset. And really the way you can look at this is, how is the TCI trending relative to price? If you see price moving up and the TCI moving up along with it, that's good. That suggests that the uptrend is intact and is likely sustainable. But if you see price moving up, then suddenly the TCI start to really aggressively move down, that's a concerning sign, suggesting that weakness is entering the market and you might have to go down. So for example, the TCI really led the way here and price followed. Then as the TCI came down aggressively, price followed it along the way down. And that's happened really throughout KAS's existence. It is that the TCI has kind of led the way. And we saw that again. We had our top, but then the TCI started aggressively trending down through here, and price has followed along. So that's where I personally would be looking for, when does the TCI reverse? When do we see it start moving up aggressively? That might be a suggestion that that next uptrend is forming. And depending how low the short-term risk got, that'll give us a sense of how far could that move potentially take us. The further down risk gets, the more into the negatives we go, the more upside potential there is in that short term. So whenever that move might materialize, it might have more room to work with to the upside. So that's one thing you can look at in the shorter term. And if you want to view these data live, you can do so at our website, claritydigital.io. Link is in the description. So those are some things that tell us about the short-term considerations with KAS. But that's not the only thing we care about, right? We also probably care about the longer term. I think a lot of people who are getting in would say, I don't really care about the short-term volatility here. I care about the broader move. I want to catch the big move and not really worry so much about trying to sell every local top and buy every local bottom, which can be very difficult to do and sometimes can get you burned, especially in a bull market like we seem to be in. So let's talk about some longer-term data. So this is our long-term risk model, our long-term UDPI. So it cares about moves that play out over months to multiple months. And again, this is a risk model. So higher values mean higher risk, lower values mean lower risk. And you see this also has done a very good job of tracking these waves that we've been seeing so far. Now, as we got up to this wave up here, as KAS was trading at around 13 cents, we got to quite high on the long-term UDPI, up to 3.58 Again, max is 5. So we'd realize a lot of the longer term upside potential at that point in time. But now it cooled off quite a bit. And even with this move up, it didn't really get super overextended. It's coming back down. And a similar story to the short-term UDPI. If we see this really cooling off lower and lower and lower, that might just mean that whenever that next impulse comes, in the longer term, it could take us a lot higher than if, for example, we started from up here. Starting from up here, you have relatively limited room to work with. Down here, you have quite a bit more to work with. So this is going to be a model that I'm going to be looking for to get a sense of where KAS is in that longer term perspective. But then also, if we want to think about what is the outlook, kind of the forecast or projection into the future, our forecast model is very useful for that. So that's what I'm showing you here. So this basically estimates the probability of upside 6 months in the future. So basically, how likely is it that the price of KAS will be above where it is today 6 months in the future? And as you can see, the forecast model has been very bullish on KAS its entire existence. So basically, it's estimating, 88, 76, here 85. Basically, very high percentage chance that the price of KAS will be above where it was at that time 6 months in the future. And that has played out this entire way. KAS has been in this impressive uptrend. And it's still bullish. It's still actually above 90%, 93% around about currently right now. So that suggests that short-term volatility can certainly happen, right? This correction could happen, could continue further, could go down further. But the model still thinks that in that kind of medium-term outlook, a bullish position still makes more sense than a bearish position. If it had to pick a side, it's more confident that the price will be above where it is right now in 6 months than that it would be below. So that's what the model is currently seeing here. So to kind of sum this all up then with KAS, I think it's certainly possible this correction that we're currently in right now could have more that needs to go. We might have to test lower levels, maybe even have to come down and test some of these lower levels in a more bearish, longer term correction. But again, if the longer term outlook is bullish, maybe that doesn't really matter. That just might give some nice opportunities. So again, in the short term, I think we're seeing a nice reset in risk, but I'll be watching the TCI to see when that reverses. So again, things could continue going further. We have not seen that reversal yet, but in that longer term view, things remain bullish in my opinion. So obviously not financial advice. You should make your own opinions as you navigate the market. That's just what I'm seeing from some of our models right now. So if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us over on X. A lot of updates about our models and more over there. And go to our website, claritydigital.io, to see live data from our models and more.